Likewise,
Yeah. Well,
my pleasure.
congratulations on the film.
Thank you so much.
We saw it in Berlin, and we just and
Oh,
it was funny because it was such a hot ticket, and people were like seeing it left and right. We finally got in to see it on one of the last screenings. They
oh
were
wow.
so into it. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So, what made you want to tell this story?
I think it was several things actually, but I think most importantly, after the sort of reaction to my previous movie, and then we danced in Georgia, there was a very big discourse in the country of like the young generation, who are super pro-Western and blah blah, and then
Mm-hmm.
versus the Soviet generation, and they're all like bigots. And I was like, I found that topic, the way the discourse was happening to be very like divisive
Mm-hmm.
and very polarizing. So I figured it can't be that black and white. I need to tell a story from the perspective of an older relative to somebody who's LGBTQI plus. I hadn't decided then that it was going to be a trans girl.
Okay.
Uh, and so that was like the initial idea. And then another thing was that I always wanted to film in Istanbul.
Okay. Are any of these characters based on people you know, or are they all just
Definitely. Yeah, they all are. So the character of Leah is based on women in my life
yeah?
that I've grown up with. She's like an amalgam of several people that I know. I think Achi very much reminds me of like my cousin and my brother.
Yeah.
Uh, and Evrim is based off of people that I met in Istanbul when I was doing research.
Exactly. Well, let's start with Leah. I mean, can you talk
Mhm.
about the decision for her to go to Turkey? Because this is a big undertaking on her part. Can you sort of talk about what
Yeah, I
go?
think, when we see her first and she's walking there by the water,
Yeah,
she feels like someone almost like a Western movie.
yeah.
She's like on a mission. She's gonna finish this mission and then she can die, basically.
Mhm.
That's how we meet her. And then throughout the film, we sort of slowly peel off each layer of her until we get to know her better. And I think she also gets to know herself again and finds her spirit, ironically, in the footsteps of this young girl that was ostracized that she's looking for.
Mhm. I love the relationship between Leah and Achi. Can you sort of talk about how these two sort of unexpectedly come together and work together and eventually form a bond?
Yeah, I mean, I think his character is very endearing and very earnest. I mean, he's just this kid who lives a shit life and who wants to get out of there. And he sees this woman and is like, this is my you know what do you call it in English when you're in the water and you have to grab something to not die, like the life.
Life preserver,
Yeah, you know what I mean, like in Sweden we have these balls in the
life
water.
jacket. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and so and I think she sort of understands. It's like she's again, she has nothing to lose, right? She's looking for this girl, and she's like, this kid's probably lying, but maybe he can be helpful, So I'll bring him along for a bit. But she's not really having it with him, right? She's very much like. Also, she used to be a teacher, so you get a sense of like she's dealt with one or two idiot kids in her life, and she feels like she doesn't really have the sort of how do you say patience for someone like him. So it starts off in this like oddball goofball couple type narrative, and then it develops into something else.
Yeah, I love the character of Evrim. That's such a strong, take no shit
Yeah,
character. Can you talk about?
yeah, I mean, it was so inspiring for me because when I was in Turkey, I met so many people like Evrim
Yeah,
were so resilient, that were just sort of navigating this very patriarchal world against all odds, but with such effervescence and positivity. So I really wanted to include that in the film.
I certainly don't want to give any spoilers away for those who haven't seen it, but at the end of the film, Leah is a changed person. Um, Maybe not everything worked out the way that she thought, but other things did. But can you sort of talk about where she is at the beginning of the film, to where she is when she's sort of walking near at the end?
Yeah, I think, like I said, in the beginning of the film, it feels like she's a woman that has one mission and then she's gonna like leave life basically somehow. She doesn't have anything to live for. Whereas toward the end of the film, I feel like very much something has been awoken
Yeah,
inside of her.
she
Yeah.
does feel very much like a different person.
Yeah, she feels more alive,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, yeah, you sort of sense that, you know, she is more alive and she's going to continue on and do more. And her viewpoint on a lot of things has definitely changed.
Yeah, 100%.
When
And yeah, sorry.
so when did you make this?
Film.
Yes.
I shot it what was it now? October and November 2022.
Mm-hmm.
That's a while back, actually, almost two
Well,
years soon.
yeah.
Yeah. And then I finished it like editing and everything like autumn of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And then we waited because we knew that Berlin was gonna screen it. So we waited to February for Berlin to premiere it.
I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to meet you, but as you know, Berlin is really kind of so much going on.
Yeah, it's crazy there.
But everybody was buzzing about this film. Um, I have to ask you about, and then we danced. How did that film change your life and career?
Well, I mean, I think it changed me in the sense that when I was making that film, I didn't have like it was very low, extremely low budget. We didn't get a lot of support for it. Nobody really believed in it. And then it, was the type of film that has the power that had a lot of power to start a discourse that's very important, and it sort of sped things up. It was like an injection into the discourse of, the existence of queer people in Georgia, blah blah. Can you be Georgian and LGBTQI plus? Can you, and also this idea of like this sort of right-wing Christians in Georgia co-opting Georgian tradition. I mean, it's bullshit. So that was, something that when the film came out and it had such immense power, of
Mhm.
course, it made me think that like, wait a minute, cinema has you know, real power to
Yeah,
change.
exactly.
And so that really, was an insight to me.
Both of these films have queer themes and they have really, really strong, positive, multi-dimensional, layered characters. Can you talk about why that's so important in your work?
Um, well, I think it's just part of who I am because I'm very, very, always been very curious and interested in people and stories and details and specificity. So I think that when I, write these characters, um, they just, I just sort of layer on them more and more and more. And then also, I'm very inspired by the real people that play the roles in the films. I mean, a lot of them are non-actors, both in Them Were Downs and in this film. So I think a lot of their own things come into the story too. And it's just like for me, the sort of how do you say it? Like building a character to me
Mhm.
doesn't really end with the script. It's something that I keep doing while I'm working, filming all the time. Um, yeah.
Well, also, when I think about these two films and some of the themes, I mean, I think about some of the themes of unlikely connections, acceptance, self-acceptance and growth. Can you sort of talk about those elements in
hmm
both of these films?
Yeah, I think, they're very, in a way, universal themes that we all deal with, whether we're queer, straight, or whatever, it's like this sort of notion of um, finding your place in a space that's not the norm, where you're not the norm. I
Mhm.
think we all can all identify with that. I think we've all felt that in our lives.
Yeah,
And it's something that you know, I'm very interested in because I've always myself felt outside of the norm
yeah,
and I've always tried to fit in, growing up, we all do. Um, and now I'm in a place of privilege myself where I can make these films.
yeah.
And I really feel like I want to do things that have, that feel earnest.
Yeah. Who are some queer directors or queer films that have inspired you as you've
Definitely Pasolini,
yeah,
and I love Mama Roma, and I love Anna Magnani.
yeah.
Tennessee Williams is another that very much inspires me and continues to.
Mhm.
His characters and how he builds them and how multidimensional they are and how like intricate they are. I think about them. They're like, characters in my mind.
Yeah.
Um, I used to love John Waters when I was a kid. Um, yeah, I think those are some of my. I'm looking at my bookshelf here. If there's anyone else I think about now that I forgot. But definitely those
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay. I think I
Yeah.
have time for one more question. So what are
Mhm.
you working on next?
Now I'm writing my next film, which I can't really talk about it.
Okay.
Also because you never know if it will
Exactly.
happen or not. But yeah, I'm working on a film about sort of wealth disparity
Mhm.
and bodily autonomy.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
and
great.
white guilt.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
it's been a pleasure talking to you. Congratulations on
Likewise, Jim. So nice. Thank you for your questions.
absolutely. You have a great rest of the day.
You too. Bye bye.
Thanks so much.